Welcome back, everyone, to Complete Aviation Solutions Deep Dive number 36. You know the drill. We take a stack of sources, and, well, today we're going to see what we can pull out of them. This time, we are looking at a legal case against Boeing.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, and I think it might have some pretty big implications.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested.
So to start, we have a class action lawsuit, and it's actually Rhode Island's treasurer is the one leading this charge.
Oh, wow. So, like, on behalf of a bunch of people, what is a class action lawsuit?
Yeah, so basically it means a whole bunch of people who are kind of in the same boat. They can all kind of come together and file this one suit against whoever.
Gotcha. So it's not just like one person who's upset, it's like a group of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's shareholders.
Yeah.
So people who own stock in Boeing.
Okay. And they're all upset about the same thing.
Yeah, it seems like it. The core accusation is that Boeing misled them, the shareholders, about some safety concerns.
Misled them. In what way?
Well, they're saying that Boeing basically downplayed, how serious some of these safety issues were.
And that would have affected the stock price, right? If people think the company's doing better than it actually is.
Exactly. So the shareholders are saying, they bought stock based on this kind of rosy picture, and then boom, the truth comes out and the stock price drops, and they lose money.
So when we talk about safety concerns, are we talking about the 737 MX?
You know it.
Right, because those crashes, that was huge news.
Huge, yeah. And the grounding that followed, I mean, it really shook the entire industry.
Absolutely. It made everyone kind of step back and think, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So the shareholders are saying that Boeing knew about problems with the MEPX, but didn't tell anyone.
Essentially, yeah. The lawsuit claims that Boeing was aware of these issues, but they downplayed the seriousness to keep investors happy.
To keep that stock price up.
Exactly.
Wow, that's pretty serious stuff. But didn't a judge just approve this lawsuit as a class action?
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting. They approved the class action, but they really narrowed down the time frame.
Okay, so it's not just any shareholder who ever bought Boeing stock. It's people who bought it within a specific window.
Right, and this is where I think it gets really interesting. So the judge said the class action period, it starts on January 7, 2021.
January 7, 2021. Does that date ring a bell? Think back to the Max saga.
Oh, wait a minute. Isn't that when Boeing reached that deferred prosecution agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice?
Ding, ding, ding. You got it. That's the date.
So that agreement, that was a big deal. Boeing basically admitted that they hadn't been completely upfront with regulators about the MAX Act.
Right. So they admitted to concealing crucial information about the aircraft's safety systems.
And that was, what, almost 2 years after the second MAX crash?
Yeah, it took a while for all of that to come out.
So the judge is basically saying the class action can only include investors who bought Boeing stock after this admission of wrongdoing.
Which is very interesting because, before that, you could argue that investors didn't have the full picture.
Right. They didn't know that Boeing had admitted to withholding information. But okay, so January 7, 2021, that's the start of the class action period. What about the end?
The end is January 8th, 2024.
Okay, so another very specific date. Is there a reason for that one too?
There is, and it might seem unrelated at first, but stick with me. This actually ties back to an incident with an Alaska Airlines 737. Not a MAX, but, still a Boeing 737.
Okay, what happened?
Well, thankfully it wasn't a crash, but it involved a faulty door plug, a part that could have led to, well, basically a rapid decompression during flight.
So a potentially catastrophic situation.
Exactly. And this happened after the MAX crashes and after that deferred prosecution agreement.
So even though Boeing had gone through all that scrutiny with the MAX, there were still serious safety issues popping up.
Right. And remember, this was a different 737 model, not a MAX. So the judge might have seen this as a sign that the safety risks at Boeing went beyond just the MAX.
So that Alaska Airlines incident was kind of a turning point. It suggested that maybe Boeing still wasn't being completely transparent about its safety practices.
Exactly. And that's why the judge chose January 8, 2024, the date of that incident, as the end of the class action period.
Wow. So the judge has basically created this very specific window where they believe the shareholders' claims of being misled hold the most weight.
Right, and it's all based on these key dates, these pivotal moments in the Boeing saga.
So what does this all mean for Boeing? What are the potential repercussions of this lawsuit?
Well, let's dive into that next. I mean, the potential financial implications for Boeing are huge if they lose this case.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of shareholders, a big chunk of time. So a potential payout could be massive.
Yeah, it could be a significant hit to their bottom line. It could impact their ability to, well, to do business, really.
So it's not just about, a slap on the wrist and a fine. This could really hurt them financially.
Right, this could be a major financial blow. And beyond just the money, you have to think about the reputation damage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That can be even harder to recover from. I mean, how do you regain the trust of investors, of the public?
It's tough, especially when it comes to safety. People need to feel confident flying on your planes.
Right. If people start associating your name with safety concerns, that's a hard thing to shake.
And it's not just passengers either. It's airlines, it's regulators, it's everyone involved in the industry.
So this case, it really has the potential to ripple outwards.
Absolutely. It's raising questions about, well, about Boeing's overall culture, how they do business, how they prioritize safety.
How they communicate with investors, how they handle internal issues. It's really putting them under the microscope.
It is, and it's forcing people to ask, okay, is this a Boeing problem or is this a bigger problem within the aviation industry?
It's like, does it expose some kind of systemic issue?
That's a good question, and I think it's one that a lot of people are going to be asking as this case moves forward.
Well, let's talk about that. How does this case actually move forward? What are we looking for next?
So the judge has set deadlines for a couple of key things. One is expert reports. So both sides are going to bring in their experts to analyze, well, all the evidence.
So we'll have experts on engineering, finance, maybe even aviation law.
Exactly. It's going to be a whole team of specialists on each side trying to build the strongest case possible.
And then what? They present their findings to the judge?
Right. And then the other big thing is discovery.
Discovery. That's where things can get pretty messy.
It can be, yeah. It's basically where both sides, they get to request information from the other side. Documents, emails, internal memos, you name it.
It's like a big legal fishing expedition, right?
That's a good way to put it. And it can take a long time, this discovery process. We could be talking months, maybe even longer.
So are we kind of in a holding pattern now, waiting for all of this to play out?
Yeah, I think so. We're probably not going to see any big headlines or major developments for a while. But that doesn't mean things aren't happening behind the scenes.
Right. The lawyers are busy. The experts are digging through mountains of paperwork. It's all happening, just not, out in the open.
Right. It's like the duck, calm on the surface, paddling furiously underneath.
Exactly. So I guess we just have to wait and see what surfaces, what gets uncovered during this discovery process.
And when it does, we'll be here to break it down for you.
Absolutely. This is a story we're going to be following closely. It's too important. The implications are too big to ignore.
And the story's not over yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see, how Boeing responds to this whole thing.
Yeah. Will they try to, settle quickly? Or are they going to dig in and fight this thing out?
I mean, a settlement would probably be the easiest way out, right? From a purely financial perspective.
Probably, yeah. But it also kind of looks like you're admitting guilt. Like you're saying, okay, yeah, we messed up. Here's some money. Let's just move on.
Right, and that might not be the best look, especially if they're trying to rebuild trust. But then again, a long, drawn-out legal battle, that's not great for their image either.
It's a tough spot to be in, that's for sure. And it's like you said, it's not just about the money. It's about public perception. It's about the future of the company.
Exactly. And I think this case, it's really a reminder for the whole industry, right? Like, safety has to be the top priority, always.
No cutting corners, no downplaying risks, no putting profits ahead of people.
Because when you do that, well, you saw what happened with the X, the consequences can be devastating.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just the company itself, right?
Right.
I mean, we're talking about people's lives here.
Right, passengers, crew members, the families of those affected by these tragedies, the impact is huge, and it lasts a long time.
So this case, it's a reminder of that, of the human cost of these decisions. And hopefully it'll lead to some positive changes, not just at Boeing, but across the whole industry.
More transparency, more accountability, a stronger focus on safety culture. That's what we need to see.
Yeah, it's time for the industry to really step up and show that they've learned from these mistakes.
And that they're committed to making sure something like this never happens again.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive. It's been pretty intense, a lot to think about.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of layers to this one.
But that's what we do here, right?
Yeah.
We dive deep, we explore the complexities, we try to make sense of it all.
And hopefully we leave our listeners with some new insights, some food for thought.
Absolutely, because that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Learning, growing, and making the aviation industry the best it can be. So, until next time, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive.